longer a member of Congress. So it would seem then that the ethics report dies the death. They didn't decide he was innocent. They just decided not to pursue it anymore.
Right.
And I don't think that he's doing it to do a solid for Gates or to own Gates. I think that Gates' loyalty to Trump is not what's at issue here. That's always been unquestioned. It's instead an external signal that Trump is sending. First of all, that he will select exactly who he wants to select. He knows how audacious a choice this is, and he doesn't care. And secondly, for this particular position, for the Department of Justice, to have at the top of it a Matt Gaetz sends a signal that, yes, I do mean good on what I said during the campaign, that I, Donald Trump, will be his voters, retribution, that I will use the Department of Justice in exactly the way that you would imagine it would be used if Matt Gaetz were at the top of it. It will be used as a weapon. It will be used as the spear point to ward off any kind of investigations into the president by the FBI or by the opposition, and that it will be used as a means of attack against Trump's opponents, be they a sitting senator like Adam Schiff, who'd been the head of the Intelligence Committee and had brought the first impeachment inquiry, a former member of Congress, Liz Cheney, who became his most vocal Republican opponent, members of the press, or any number of individuals. Matt Gaetz will be at the very top of a Department of Justice that will be the kind of justice that Donald Trump wants justice to mean. He will redefine the concept of justice through the personage of Gaetz as his attack dog.
But of course, there is a Senate confirmation process for his appointment. So what are the senators saying about his nomination?
He chose Matt Gaetz. Matt will come before the committee, and he will be asked hard questions, and we'll see how he does.
Well, there's been a sort of collective groan and or statements of shock.
Look, I barely know Gaetz. All I know is he likes picking fights on social media. He'll have to deal with that in committees, but I don't know his background. I'm going to look at it and give him a fair hearing.
None of them has come right out and said that they would oppose it, but there's clearly some friction and clearly some kind of visceral opposition.
And what if this ethics report does end up somehow getting out, like either leaked or actually released? I would imagine there would be a pretty big public outcry. It's explosive. Do we think Trump might blink and say, never mind?
It seems really unlikely that Trump is going to be in any way concerned by the release of the report, or for that matter, the contents of the report. I think he's been fully briefed on what likely is in it.
So we're talking on Sunday morning. As of now, it seems likely that this is actually heading to a confirmation hearing in a Republican-controlled Senate, where on the one hand, Gaetz has a lot of enemies, but on the other, this group of senators is pretty afraid of crossing Trump. So this sets up a pretty interesting showdown.
It certainly does. And because it is an audacious move for Trump to pick someone who is not only unqualified for the job, it would seem, who not only is so disliked by members of his own party, but also is so encumbered. And it's a very early test of just how willing the Republican Party is to offer any kind of check on the president-elect. It cannot be emphasized enough, Sabrina, that Republicans have been paying close attention over the years to what's happened to those Republicans who have attempted to thwart Trump's will, prominently Liz Cheney, and none of them wants to suffer the Liz Cheney treatment. So we'll see whether Republicans are willing to say, look, we'll give you all of these other nominations. This is just a bridge too far. Or if they, in essence, say, the bridge too far is also a bridge that we're going to be willing to give you.
Robert, thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Sabrina.
The Daily is powered by the journalism of the New York Times and is distributed by APM, American Public Media. You can go deeper into the stories you hear on The Daily by going to nytimes.com/The Daily. That's it for The Daily. I'm Sabrina Tavernise. See you tomorrow.
The Daily is supported by Seed. Seed's DS-01 is a 24-strain 2-in-1 probiotic and prebiotic engineered to survive digestion, support healthy regularity, and promote whole body health. Learn more at seed.com/public.
And by JLL, helping unlock possibilities across real estate sectors, from managing 100 million square feet of data centers globally to insights from their 3,000 life sciences team members. Learn more at JLL.com. JLL, see a brighter way.
Climate change is one of the defining stories of our time.
Temperature is rising.
Grass stopped growing.
Catastrophic changes to this planet.
So every weekday on NewsHour, we're committed to covering the issue in a deliberate and conscious way.
You either pay now or you're going to pay immensely more later.
And doing much more than simply responding to events.
He's playing politics with this issue.
NewsHour from the BBC.
That's the BBC NewsHour every weekday morning at 9 a.m.
The 7 o'clock session of Roanoke City Council is hereby called to order, and I'll ask our clerk, Ms. Susan McCoy, to please call the roll.
All right. Ms. Sanchez-Jones? Here. Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Here.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Here.
Ms. White Boyd?
Here.
Mr. Vollison?
Here.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Here.
Mayor Lee?
Here, and a quorum is present. Tonight, our invocation will be delivered by the Reverend Jan Raffensberger, Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke. Jan, thank you.
Thank you. Let us join now in this time of prayer and reflection. God of many names and beyond naming, that brings abundance to our spirits and causes hope to dwell within our hearts, we ask your blessing upon those here gathered to serve this beautiful community. Show them wisdom. Allow them a path to a clear understanding of the values that support their decision-making. Remind them also of the brilliant array of people that they serve. Make them glad and grateful in this public service, and may hope and wisdom grow ever in their hearts, so that their hands may be guided in the way that best serves all. We know that it is a gift of their time and their talent, and we give thanks for the work of these who have so given themselves to this public service. With gratitude for your goodness and the blessings you bestow on us and on our community, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend. Welcome, everybody, to our evening session today. And the first order of business tonight is to certify our closed meeting. I'm going to call on Councilman Peter Volson to make the motion.
I move, with respect to any closed meeting just concluded, that each member of City Council in attendance certify to the best of his or her knowledge that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and only such public business matters as were identified in any motion by which any closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered by the members of council in attendance.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Thank you. Tonight, we will not have any
Yes, sir.
You need to certify.
Oh, we didn't, I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
All right, Ms. Sanchez-Jones. Mr. Fitzpatrick. Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
And Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
Thank you. Did you call mine? I didn't hear that. Did you call mine? Okay. I don't know, man.
We're gonna move on.
I'm still asleep. All right.
Mary Lee, did you vote? Did we miss you?
I'm taking a nap.
Mayor, I'm sorry. I'll put you down as a yes.
Okay.
All right.
All right, we have no presentations and acknowledgements tonight, and we'll move right into our public hearings. Our first public hearing is a request of Macy's Metropolitan LLC to repeal conditions proffered as part of a previous rezoning at Old Brandon Avenue Southwest, official tax map number 5200119, and to rezone O and Old Brandon Avenue Southwest, official tax map numbers 5200119 and 5200115, respectively, from CG Commercial General District with conditions and mixed-use districts to CG Commercial General District with conditions. Ben Crew is the spokesman, and there is a ordinance.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can you read the title paragraph?
Yes, sir. An ordinance to repeal conditions proffered as a part of a previous rezoning of certain property located at 0 Brandon Avenue Southwest, official tax map number 5200119, and to rezone certain property located at 0 and 0 Brandon Avenue Southwest, official tax map numbers 5200119 and 5200115 respectively, from CG Commercial General District with conditions and MX Mixed Use District to CG Commercial General District, subject to certain conditions proffered by the applicant, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Thank you. Mr. Crew, you're welcome to come, since you're the spokesman here, to recognize you for any comments you'd like to make, or you may just reserve any comments and wait to see if there are any questions from council. Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to open the public hearing. And Madam Clerk, are there any citizens wishing to be heard?
No, sir, I don't have any citizens on that.
All right, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask my colleagues if they have any comments or questions or anything to be discussed.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm reading back in the minutes where it was first done, and it said that it was a tract of land located on the northerly side of Lee Highway, and it said west of its intersection with Area Way Drive. And it mentioned the, I guess it was the acres, but it also mentioned official tax map number 5200107. Is that included or this is excluded?
Well, okay.
Where are you reading that information within the?
I'm reading it when it was adopted back in 1995.
It's in the report.
Oh, it's the formal ordinance from 95?
Yes, and I was reading the report, but if it says it somewhere in the report, I may have overlooked that, and I'm just now seeing it again. That's why I'm asking, because
I'm not familiar enough
I'm
with
just
that
trying to make
previous
sure
ordinance.
that the, okay, thank you.
The original ordinance did have multiple parcels over which the conditions applied. That additional parcel, which is on the corner of Peters Creek and Brandon Avenue Southwest, is not part of this application.
Okay.
Only the two that are listed.
So the one that's not part of the application stays undeveloped as 107?
Correct.
Okay. But it is in the same location adjacent to Stratford Park? Am I in the right, I was trying to figure it out. Maybe Peter can help me here. I'm trying to see exactly.
So this is the part.
Right.
And this is Peters Creek?
Right,
So
Peters
it's only
Creek.
this part that we're doing.
Okay. Yes, because,
And this is, yeah, look at.
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
This is the one that remains.
Okay.
It does not include this parcel on the corner.
Okay.
So only this portion.
Okay. And I apologize for not getting with you beforehand, because I marked up mine. Trying to.
And again, on this one, you see that it was these two parcels. It's this one.
Okay.
That is being rezoned.
Okay, okay. Okay. And I did have a couple of questions, and that was, you mentioned in your amended application number 1, responding to most of the items that were noted, which was the street facade, and the freestanding signage and retaining walls, and I saw all of that. So what else was asked for in application number 1 that wasn't listed?
Asking the petitioner?
Yes.
There were, when we went through good evening, Ben Crew with Balzer and Associates, agent on behalf of this request, so excited to be with you all this evening. So there were a handful of questions that we discussed as part of the work session, because we attended those, and part of the questions was, could we eliminate those retaining walls along Brandon Avenue? None of us like to put retaining walls in, especially along the street frontage, because we want to have pedestrian connectivity to the building. And due to the grade across the site, we couldn't eliminate those completely. So we staggered those, as discussed with staff, but the rest of the items were part of the amended application number 1, but mainly that discussion was related to the retaining walls, if that's accurate. Okay.
And so the other things are going to be part of the application?
Yes, ma'am. We amended the application to include and address the questions related to glazing and the 3 or 4 other items that were listed.
What about the ingress, egress coming in on Brandon? I think there was a couple of things mentioned on that one. Is that still going to be where you're coming in and going out?
Yes, ma'am. There are 2 access points, one on Brandon Avenue, which is a public road, and then one on Stratford Park Drive, which is a private drive.
Right.
And so there's 2 access points.
So you were, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you do any outreach at all over there in the Stratford Park complex? Did you talk with anyone over there?
So very great question. So the owner and applicant own Stratford Park.
Okay.
And so owner and applicant are one and the same.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Did not know that. Okay. And how about the Civic League? Did you talk with anyone in Greater Darley? Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, let's get clarity on that, since we're going to dig in. Let me introduce Paige Pruitt, who's the owner and applicant as part of this, and she can clarify any of the membership or ownership items related to the adjacent parcels.
Okay. Apologies for interrupting, but okay, thank you. I was going to take him at his word.
Paige Pruitt, business address is 3807 Brandon Avenue Southwest.
So go ahead. So the clarification I was making is CSW Associates owns Stratford Park Drive. There was a communication plan that went out to, I think, a group broader than what the city did, because we did receive the cities, but we also sent out our own with a one-page FAQ as well as a map that had the preliminary drawing from Balzer. That did include the owners of Stratford Village and Lehigh Manor. A company I'm affiliated with owns Brandon Point Apartments, so there are actually 3 complexes up there. And actually, one lady from Stratford Village actually came to the Planning Commission. I spoke with her after. In addition, I met with the Dyerly Association, had a regularly scheduled meeting that was last week, and I went and made a presentation to them and also met with them.
Good, because that was one of the questions you answered that one.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that. And it's to construct a hotel on the property.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you at a point where you could share anything about the hotel other than what I read in the report? And it's more for the public than it is for anything else.
Happy to. We've been approved for a Best Western at home, which is an extended stay, so that's a particular segment within the hotel industry. It will be approximately 80 rooms. It will be pet-friendly, non-smoking, no pool, EV charging will be there. We tried to include the details we know in the materials.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you. Again, I just wanted it for the public because they may not have seen the report.
Yes.
So I just wanted it to be out there what this was going to be.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, I think we're ready to call the roll.
All right. Ms. Sanchez-Jones? Aye. Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
And Mayor Lee?
Aye. And the motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, item number 2 is the request of Virginia Lutheran Homes Incorporated to amend conditions proffered as part of a zoning amendment at 3804 Brandon Avenue Southwest, official tax map number 5180-304, previously accepted by City Council on July 20th, 2015 by the adoption of ordinance number 40-307-2015. John Provak is the agent spokesperson. There's an ordinance.
Move the ordinance.
All right, Madam Clerk, please read the title paragraph.
Yes, sir. An ordinance to, 1, repeal proffered conditions previously adopted under ordinance number 40303-072015, adopted July 20th, 2015, and 2, to replace them with new proffered conditions on property located at 3804 Brandon Avenue Southwest, bearing official tax map number 5180304 by application made by Virginia Lutheran Homes, Inc., and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
All right, thank you. The City Planning Commission recommends approval for this item, and I'll recognize Mr. Provak if you have any questions, or if you want to just wait and see if council has any questions.
Yeah. Good evening, John Puvak, 10 Franklin Road. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any citizens wishing to be heard on this, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
All right, well, we want to open the public hearing, so we'll close the public hearing and ask my colleagues if they have any comments or questions. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, just one brief question. Is this essentially to allow for more flexibility of what units are built on the property? Could you just summarize that a little bit?
Sure. It's driven by market demand, so we're taking off 2 buildings, low-story townhomes, duplexes, and building additional density, independent living. There's a huge waiting list for independent living, so not increasing the total units. Units are being shifted around, but allowing more multifamily units. That's how this project has developed the last couple iterations, is building more apartments, because that's what the demand is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, questions by council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, we can call the roll.
Yes. Ms. Sanchez Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
Aye. Thank you. And the motion passes, Mr. Purback. Thank you. Item number 3 is enterprise zone boundary amendments. There's a ordinance.
Move the ordinance. Second.
Madam Clerk, please read the title paragraph.
A resolution authorizing the proper city officials to make boundary amendments to the city's Enterprise Zone 1A and its Subzone B that will, 1, delete certain areas currently within Enterprise Zone 1A and its Subzone B, and 2, will add certain areas not currently within Enterprise Zone 1A and its Subzone B to Enterprise Zone 1A and its Subzone B, authorizing the interim city manager or designee to apply to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development for approval of such boundary amendments, and authorizing the interim city manager or designee to take such further action as may be necessary to obtain and implement such boundary amendments.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson? Oh, Mark. Okay. Mark, if any of you may make any comments you need to, or you can just respond to any questions the council may have.
I'm just responding for questions, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we're going to open the public hearing. Are there any citizens wishing to be heard?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll ask my colleagues if they have any comments or questions.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, just for me, just to understand what this means, adding some acreage and then deleting some from others, just like Ms. Moon Reynolds always says, just for the public to understand, to help us all understand exactly what you're doing.
Right, thank you for that question, Councilwoman White Boyd. So basically, the process works is a state-approved process. The enterprise zone it covers about 7% of our city's total acreage, which in this case is 1,922 acres. So each year, we are allowed to retroactively add acreage back in or take acreage out. So basically, over the course of the year, if a business comes to us and says, I'd like to be placed in the enterprise zone, and the benefits of being in the enterprise zone is it opens you up to certain state incentives. It opens you up to, locally, it opens you up to facade grants, water, fire, sewer, rebates, things like that. And the state level, it opens you up to real property investment grants, which allow you, if your investment is $1 million or more, it can give you up to $100,000 back. Or if it's more than $5 million, it allows you to get about $200,000 back. So they are very lucrative to be able to if you can get into the zone. So basically, over the course of the year, we have businesses come to us, or sometimes we strategically add sites to the zone to help them be more attractive in terms of sales. The properties you're seeing here, we are adding 28 acres in, and I'm not sure if the handout you have has which
It has 28, yes.
Right, so
is
it just the addresses, or is it the businesses as well?
It gives the address, but it doesn't say the business.
Right, so the ones being added are the Spark by Hilton, Lat Dentistry, Mama Jean's Barbecue, the former Ramada Inn, Lee Point Digital over in the Old Southwest, and a couple of commercial buildings, and then we have some other properties that are being added for Steel Dynamics benefit. So on the deletion side, most of the acreage that's being deleted is actually Steel Dynamics as well. They had certain parts of their site they wanted in to do a potential expansion, and they were able to take certain parts out of it. The other pieces are a city-owned fire station, that's the one on Williamson Road, and then Calvary Chapel, which is a church, and they are not eligible for enterprise zone benefits. So we did check with everyone that we were deleting, Steel Dynamics, the church, and the city, to see whether it was okay for us to be able to take them out. And so basically what happens is we have a net with 58 coming out and 28 going in. We actually have about 32 acres that would just spare right now. And so what we would have is over the course of the year, different businesses come to us and say what kind of incentives are available. If we put you in the enterprise zone, we have to do that every October. And then once we have approval from this board, then we go to the state and get approval from them as well.
So I'm just curious about your methodology. So how do you determine which ones go into the enterprise zone and which ones come out? I know you said somebody comes to us or whatever, but is there a specific way that you do it, or is it just like you said, as people approach you or businesses approach you or whatever. I'm just trying to figure out the process, because I couldn't figure out how you came up with the businesses that you put in and the ones that you deleted.
That's a really good question. Most of the time, the additions, people come to us, or if, one of the sites we were thinking about adding recently was at the old Johnson & Johnson building near William Fleming High School. That's a very large site. We thought adding it to the zone would make it more attractive to someone who maybe wanted to redevelop it, so that kind of thing. But then there are other instances where Mama Jean's came to us over on Brandon Avenue, and they said, what can you help us with? And we said, if we add you to the enterprise zone, then we can help with your facade grants and your plans and things like that. The deletions often are us going to a business and saying, look, you haven't used this in a while. We need to take you out so we can put other businesses in. Are you okay with that? And we have to generally we get their approval before we do so. And in a lot of cases, in our case, generally you're supposed to send a letter. What we did in this case is we actually called and spoke with them to be able to make sure they were okay with that.
And this is done annually?
Annually, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for that information. That was helpful for me.
All right, any other questions, comments?
I think Mr. Cobb had.
You got?
No, he answered my questions.
Oh, okay.
All right, no further comments, we're ready to call the roll.
All right. Ms. Sanchez Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
And Mayor Lee?
Aye, and the ordinance passes.
Thank you.
Item number 4 is tax exemption request for personal property owned by Wellness Wagon. There's an ordinance.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, read the title paragraph, please.
Yes, sir. An ordinance exempting from personal property taxation certain personal property located in the city of Roanoke owned by Wellness Wagon, a Virginia nonprofit 501c3 corporation devoted exclusively to charitable or benevolent purposes on a nonprofit basis, providing for an effective date and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
All right, are there any representatives from Wellness Wagon here? All right. Mr. Collins, do you have any comments or anything that you'd like to make known to the council, or you just want to respond to any questions that may come?
Good evening, Mayor Lee, Vice Mayor Cobb, and members of City Council. Wellness Wagon is a 501c3 corporation that has applied for tax exemption of its personal property. It uses it's a motor vehicle that it uses to provide a mobile acupuncture clinic at a reduced scale and at other times free of services. City staff has reviewed their application, and in accordance with Virginia Code 58.1 3651, city staff and our office can advise City Council that there are no objections to City Council granting the exemption.
Anybody, any questions?
I think it's a wonderful thing. I've actually used it, and it's good, and it's practically free. And I think that's the reason they offer it, because of the stress level. They can offer it free or reduced, and I think it's just great that it's in locations where it's very much needed, sometimes close to the Salvation Army and over by the by the Bradley Free Clinic. I've seen it there, so I just think it's a wonderful thing.
I've heard good things about them.
Yeah.
They come to the Diversity Center.
The Diversity Center, I mean, they're all over at little to no cost. So if you need acupuncture for stress.
All right, I'm going to open a public hearing, Madam Clerk. Are there any citizens signed up to speak on this?
No, sir.
Okay, well, I will close the public hearing and ask council if they have any further comments or questions. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Sanchez Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
And Mayor Lee?
Aye, and the ordinance passes. Thank you. Item number 5 is tax exemption request from real property owned by Good Samaritan Hospice Incorporated. There's an ordinance.
Move the ordinance. Second.
Madam Clerk, please read the title paragraph.
An ordinance exempting from real property taxation certain real property located in the city of Roanoke owned by Good Samaritan Hospice Incorporated, a Virginia non-stock, nonprofit 501c3 corporation devoted exclusively to charitable or benevolent purposes on a non-profit basis, providing for an effective date and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance by title.
Thank you. Are there any representatives from the Good Samaritan Hospice Incorporated here? Are there any comments that you all would like to make or statements? You don't have to if you want to.
Never hurts.
Good evening. My name is Neil Burkhoff. I'm a partner at Woods Rogers, counsel for Good Samaritan Hospice. I understand from the city attorney's office that they're recommending the exemption. The one outstanding issue we have is the effective date of the exemption. Good Samaritan Hospice is asking for an effective date of July 1. The city attorney's office is recommending an effective date of January 1, 2025. To give a little bit of background on all this, on April 19th or April 23rd, that's up for debate. This petition was dated the 19th. It was received by the clerk's office on the 23rd. We petitioned for the real estate exemption. We did not hear anything back from the city in writing until July 19th, after the July 1 first date. And in that July 19 email from the city clerk's office, we were informed that the petition was being denied because the property did not meet the requirements for tax exemption, specifically that the property was not being fully operational at that point. The particular facility has basically two sides, if you will. One is a general hospice care side and long-term care counseling, etc. The other side is a 16-bed hospice and palliative care facility, and the licensing for that did not come through until later in the summer. But the property was operational. Good Samaritan had moved in all their operations into the facility as of April, when they got the certificate of occupancy. And so we argued that it was fully operational, it should be exempt at that point in time. But the petition was denied. We were instructed to file a second petition on or before October 15th, which would be the deadline for getting a January 1 exemption. We filed that supplemental petition, if you will. By that time, we had both licenses for both sides of the facility. It was fully operational. While we were preparing that petition, we were in contact with the city attorney's office with Mr. Hill, who's gotten old. I've gotten old. He used to be a summer associate at our firm back in the day. In any event, we were informed by Mr. Hill that the petition that was filed on April 19th, in fact, did meet all the requirements and should have been accepted at least on its substance back in April. But then the city attorney's office raised for the first time the issue that we were 4 days late with the April 15th filing deadline, and therefore that petition could not be processed, and we'd have to go with the October 15th petition and again have an exemption date of January 1, 2025. Well, the deadline for filing petition, the April 15th and the October 15th deadlines, are not law. They are not in the statute, they're not in the regulation, they're not in the city's municipal code. It's just a policy that City Council adopted several years ago. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but as a bureaucratic policy to give the city clerk's office and the city attorney's office time to review and process the petitions before presenting them to City Council. Well, while our petition was filed April 19th, or dated April 19th, and so 4 days late, it apparently was in fact processed because somebody made the decision that it was incomplete, and then later said it is in fact complete, and only later brings up this policy deadline, which to my mind is a discretionary deadline fully within the discretion of City Council to amend, revise, or waive in this case for a 4-day delay that was due in large part because paperwork had come in right around April 15th. So otherwise, the exemption, we understand, will be granted, but we would request that the exemption be made effective July 1, 2024, rather than January 1, 2025. The savings to the hospice will be approximately $52,000, less a certain amount that the hospice is going to pay in any event under a pilot agreement with the city for fees in lieu of taxes. But that $40,000 to $42,000 bill is still pretty significant for the hospice. And the hospice is going to have to take some steps to address how they're going to pay that bill. And Mr. Hausch, the executive director, is here, may be able to answer those questions better than I can. But from what I see, the hospice is either going to have to reduce staff, which means reducing some city citizens who work at the hospice from their jobs, or it's going to have to raise the fees for quality hospice care provided to city residents. So again, we would request that council consider waiving that 4-day delay in the April 19th petition that was otherwise fully effective, and give us a July 1 exemption with regard to the hospice and its real estate exemption. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you have any specific questions about operations, Mr. Hausch is here again to answer those.
Let me call Mr. Collins on this and get.
Sorry, I called him Mr. Hill. It has been so long, David.
Oh, that's okay.
And I'm so old.
At least you still have your hair. Mayor Lee, Vice Mayor Cobb, and members of council, just to add to some things that Mr. Barkoff has stated and to clarify the facts of the situation. We have a policy that applications for tax exemptions have to be received by April 15th for exemptions to be effective July 1. And we also have a policy that applications for exemptions have to be received by October 15th for exemptions to be effective January 1. The law of the Virginia, when it comes to these exemptions, require that tax exemption statutes be strictly construed. And it's important that the property owner actually be using the property at the time the exemption is granted. From our understanding, Good Samaritan moved into their headquarters on Cove Road on or sometime around the end of March of '24. One half of the headquarters is used as its base of operations. The other half is intended to be used as an inpatient care facility for patients with acute pain. Good Samaritan forwarded an application for exemption to the city dated April 19th, received by the clerk's office sometime thereafter. I believe it was around April 23rd. Madam Clerk, I don't know if you have the exact date in your records, but that's not as relevant. At that time, Good Samaritan had not received application from the state to operate its inpatient care facility. So there was still a question at that time whether they could actually be using the property for their purpose. Nevertheless, the application that was submitted was for them to receive an exemption for use of their headquarters. And it's my opinion council can find that based on that basis that the property would be exempt. However, they did not submit it until after the due date, and the city has to treat all applicants fairly, equally, and consistently when it comes to these matters. And moreover, there's no legal basis that our office can find that would allow for retroactive tax exemption. Sometime in September, I believe it was, Good Samaritan actually received permission from the state to operate the other part of the building as an inpatient care facility. So we encourage Good Samaritan to submit an updated application. And that was received prior to the October 15th deadline for an exemption to be effective January 1. So for all of those reasons, it's our office's recommendation that the exemption, should council adopt the exemption, be effective January 1, 2025, and not July 1, 2024. Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions by members of council? Well, I'm gonna go to my right first. Ms. Patrick.
Okay. It's unconscionable to me, and I appreciate the attorney's office being right down to the line on this, but to ask someone like Good Sam to give up $42,000 when they do what they do for this community, it isn't right to me. I would recommend that we amend this to make it effective July 1st, 2024, and amend the ordinance to that effect, Mayor.
All right, any other comments?
Yeah, Mayor, our real estate assessor determined that the property was not exempt from taxes. Is Mr. Bratton still in here? You want to clarify that? Yes. Can you come to the podium? And also, I think, did I hear you correctly that they didn't get the license to even operate, so they shouldn't have been operating until sometime in September?
For the inpatient care facility.
Only for one part of it.
But the other part of it was admin.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, right. I just want to make sure I'm clear.
All right, hold on, a lot of questions.
Have the executive director come in and press.
Okay, let's.
All right, hold on, there are too many people, hold on. The executive director, you come up, and then we'll give everybody a chance to chime in on this. You stay right there, Mr. Bratton, and let's see what
Mayor,
you have to say.
Council, just wanted to clarify very quickly. We did have a license to operate out of that facility it's somewhat confusing to say administrative services. The largest part of the work that we do is home care services, which is hospice and palliative care. And we serve across the Roanoke City and Valley up to 250 patients a day. And so we relocated those services. We got the certificate of occupancy March 25th. We were operating there on March 26th. And so the vast majority of all of the care that we provide was operational on March 26th. The hospice house and the inpatient unit, once we got occupancy, of course, we had to file with the state, and the state had to come out. We did not receive that license to operate a hospice house until September. I believe it was September the 3rd. But it's still, I think, very important to know 90% of the services that we provide that are charitable were operational out of that facility on March 26, 2024. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Bratton.
Mayor Lee, Vice Mayor Cobb, members of council, they did apply to us, and it's pretty much standard, and David can speak to the legalities of it, but by classification and designation, they did not qualify, so we denied it, and that's just a process that goes on, and then it's brought to you guys for an exception. So that's the end of what we do in our office, but beyond that, it's your decision as to what you're going to do as far as granting them an exemption, and then the period by which you would grant them an exemption.
All right.
So it's
Miss,
not
you
exempt
got
by-
the floor.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to understand what it says, not exempt by classification. I don't know if
David,
you want to
yes.
explain that to me.
Ms. White Boyd, so under the Virginia Constitution and State Code, when it comes to these exemptions, the Commissioner of the Revenue has to first consider whether or not the applicant is already exempt under the Virginia State Code by classification or designation, meaning that the use of the property falls into one of those self-executing provisions under the state code where exemptions have already been granted. And there are only a few of those, such as public park, playground purposes, a home for a religious minister, or any other property that the locality designates as charitable or benevolent or patriotic. It also includes property that the Virginia General Assembly, prior to 2003, granted as exempt. The commissioner has to make an initial threshold determination. And if the property is not exempt, it may be eligible for the governing body to designate as exempt under 58.13651. And we are here under 58.13651.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Carl?
Point of order, we got a motion on the floor, right? That
No.
either goes up or down.
You have
You
got
don't
a
have a
second. You have got a
We don't-
That's
second.
what I mean. We
Yeah,
either-
you
we
still
either
need to
need
get your second,
So it
yes.
doesn't have a second, so.
I'll second it. Okay. I'll second his motion.
Now the discussion continues, because I have something.
So, all right.
I have, Mr. Mayor, if I could, I just have I appreciate what Vice Mayor Fitzpatrick said about the good work that Good Sam does. However, I always have to put the however there. Others will come too and say they do good work. Where do you stop and where do you start with? And I'm a conservative, moderate conservative person, and I'm looking at what we are exempting in the personal property tax realm. And this has been going on since Bill White first brought it up back in, I think back in '03, when they came up with the policy for, just to keep different ones from coming and trying to get a standard. And I would be curious, and we don't have to do that now, but I still would be curious as to, since then, how many exemptions have been granted over the years for exemption from personal property tax. That is a revenue. And when we look at each time you take away, you've got to find a way to make up that revenue at some point if it's under the personal property tax exemption. Am I missing something in
Well, I
that
can
piece?
tell you this from the real estate side. We have 2,137 exempt properties valued at $2.5 billion, represent 19% of your entire portfolio. And it's 4.6% of the entire properties in the city. So you have a substantial amount of real estate that is exempt. When you think about our assessment, our values, total portfolio is worth $13.3 billion. So you have $2.5 billion in exempt property.
Yeah. See, that's where I kind of started. We're not thinking of that as we look at the exemption, just like the one before with the wellness wagon. We just gave them one. And now here we are again, getting ready to do a larger one. What happens when the next one or the next one? And I think council may have to look at that policy at some point, or we'll continue on losing revenue. That is to help, to offset your budget. Because we're looking at now budget constraints. Where do we stop? And there's nothing against Good Sam, don't get me wrong. But I'm just looking at from the standpoint of being a good steward of taxpayers' dollars.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, to the point that Ms. Moon Merrills is making, we can later. This is not the time. I know Mr. Collins has come up with several ideas since he's been so involved, and as you can see, this is where his detailed mind really comes into play. To find that balance, to find the harmony that we can between our good charities who are providing good work as well as being able to protect the purse strings of the community. So With that, we will work through the city manager's office to perhaps craft something for a later presentation, but that's not for tonight.
Correct, it's just that after 2 decades, sometimes you have to come back and revisit. And I appreciate you saying that, Mr. Spencer.
Does that get us through right now where we are?
No, it just brings you to that point,
Okay.
yes.
All right, we got a point of order being called, and so I'll ask our clerk to call the roll.
This is on the.
It's on the amendment.
Yeah, this is on
The
the
amendment.
amendment.
All right. Ms. Sanchez Jones? Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
No.
Mr. Volleson?
No.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
No,
And Mayor Lee?
No. All right,
Does that bring us back to?
now we're back
Now
to
we
the
need the
main
ordinance.
motion.
Yeah,
The
okay.
main ordinance.
all right, then,
Call the roll.
are there anybody else that wishes to be heard on the ordinance itself?
Well, I just have one other question to ask. Prior to moving to the city, were your operations in Roanoke County?
Yes, sir.
And have you always, as Good Samaritan, always been considered a tax-exempt organization?
Yes, sir.
So your tax-exempt status did not change by virtue of you moving to Roanoke. Your services and daily operations did not change. You've simply expanded your services by adding an in-house hospice center, which is one of a kind in at least the region. I don't know how many there are in Virginia. Is that all correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And Mayor, I would just add that I am in total agreement with that. We're just sticking with the policy and the way it's written, and effective January, I think, I'm all for that. I think that's exactly what we should be doing, and they should be tax exempt, but effective January.
All right, anybody else? All right, let's call the roll then.
Well, if we can, I could very well be wrong, and I usually write it down. I don't remember hearing that the public hearing was opened.
Yes,
It was open.
It was? Okay.
We need, and
I just
And
wanted to make
closed.
sure.
Yeah,
I apologize.
Okay,
All right, where are we, Madam Clerk?
okay, you want to vote now
Yeah.
on,
Yes.
on,
on the original
On the
ordinance.
original ordinance.
oh, yes, on the
Right.
original ordinance. Okay, I
Call
will
the
call
roll,
the roll. Ms. Sanchez Jones? Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
And Mayor Lee?
Aye.
Okay.
And the ordinance passes. Thank you. All right, the next order of business is unfinished business request for sale of city-owned vacant lot located at 801 Franklin Road Southwest. Official tax map number 102071-6. This matter was before council on October 21st, 2024, and tabled following a public hearing. The matter must be removed from the table before proceeding. Is there a motion to remove from the table?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll to move it from the table.
Yes. Ms. Sanchez Jones? Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Volleson?
No.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
Did you say no? Okay. And Mayor Lee?
Did you call me that time? I didn't hear it.
He was waiting on it.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Yes.
Okay, you did not call me.
I did not call you, but I did call you.
I got my age in. I'm waiting. Okay. So,
Yeah.
We need to vote?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
all right. So we got to adopt one measure as an ordinance.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you read the title paragraph?
Yes, sir. An ordinance authorizing the interim city manager or designee to execute the necessary documents providing for the sale and conveyance of 801 Franklin Road Southwest, Roanoke, Virginia. Official tax map number 1020716 to Crandall Providence Building LLC upon certain terms and conditions, and dispensing with the second reading of this ordinance.
Thank you. Any discussion by members of council? All right, so let's be clear on what we're voting on. I want to make sure we and the public understands what we're doing. We're voting to either sell the property or not to sell it. Okay.
Sell it.
To sell it.
All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Sanchez Jones.
Okay, I'm scared. Either they're saying something or not. I mean, I got my eyes wide open.
I'm the oldest one up here. My ears seem to be working okay. I'm really worried.
What you heard was a no.
Okay, but
You said aye.
Open yes.
Open, yes.
Okay. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Yes, or aye.
Ms. Vice Mayor Cobb.
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd.
Aye.
Mr. Volleson.
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds.
Aye.
And Mayor Lee.
ah. That's what you say. You know one way or another. All right, the ordinance passes. Item 17 is hearing of citizens upon public matters. City Council sets this time as a priority for citizens to be heard. If deemed appropriate, matters will be referred to the city manager for response, a recommendation, or report to the council. Madam Clerk, is there anybody signed up to speak?
Yes, sir. We have two citizens
Okay.
signed up to speak.
Can you call them in the order of them signing up?
I will. Clarence Barber.
Yes.
Followed by Jennifer Truskowski. Okay.
How y'all doing?
Good, how are you doing, sir?
I see that I'm in the wrong meeting. Everything right here is about rental property and owning things, but my whole problem is, where do y'all plan on having a rent-to-own rights? Because I've been in my home for 24 years, never got the rent to own it, then I ended up getting forced out of it. And now I could have been homeless till a family member put me in their home. And I've been talking to the legal aids and all that, right? So my whole thing is, do renters have their rights to rent to own, or just an owner's thing? They can do what they want to do with it, and the renter just out of luck, or what? Anybody can answer if you can. Well, I'll refer that to Mr. Spencer if he can, or we'll refer it to the city manager for him to research the matter and then come back and share, give us an answer.
Real quickly, I think I can provide an answer.
All right.
Most of our real estate law comes from England, which is vested rights. And when someone purchases a piece of property, they own it and they can rent it so that they always retain ownership of that. And the renter simply is renting it for the period of time under the lease. Therefore, your first assumption was correct. Owners get to keep it, and you're there for 24 years,
All right.
and you don't get a right to own it unless the contract specifically states that.
All right, that was my whole...
Does that help?
Yeah.
I know it doesn't help you, but does it answer your question?
It don't help. I could have stayed at home.
Well, I'm glad you
I
can.
just wanted to get the message out, but, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
If I may, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Being on the Fair Housing Board, I've seen plenty of landlord-tenant issues like this, and so I hope that the state will continue to expand the rights that renters have, because I do think that it's becoming an issue in the state.
Especially now when you're not having a lease anymore.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
Yes. Jennifer Truskowski.
Hello, thank you for listening to me. I'm here to talk about the lack of affordable housing in Roanoke right now. I've lived in Roanoke for 13 years. I've been a renter the whole time, and for most of that time I've been able to afford to live here. And for the past 8 years I shared a house with my former partner, and we split up, and then I went to find my own apartment, and I was horrified at how much rent has gone up in the past 8 years. And I found myself having to spend 50% more for an apartment. And I almost left Roanoke, and I love Roanoke. I've been here 13 years. I almost left. I was looking at places in other cities, and luckily I found an affordable studio apartment. But right now, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment is about $1,000. And you have to make $43,000 a year to comfortably afford that. So somebody making minimum wage, even making $20 an hour, can't afford a one-bedroom apartment. And a regular studio, an average studio rent is $760 a month. And somebody making minimum wage can't even afford a studio apartment right now. So right now, there's no limit on how much a landlord can increase their rent. My friend's mother, she had her rent raised $350 in 1 year. She was paying $500 and they raised it up to $850. There was no improvement. It was just that a new company bought the building and decided to raise the rent. She's on a limited income. She's elderly. She couldn't find another apartment, so she is stuck there, paying $350 more for rent. So this lack of protections encourages absentee landlords and corporations to come buy up property, increase rent, and decrease services. And we have no protections. So right now there are 2 anti-rent gouging bills that are going to be reconsidered in 2025. And for Virginia, and they're SB 366 and HB 721, and I hope that you will include anti-rent gouging priorities in the city's legislative agenda for the future. And homelessness has increased 20% in 2024. Unsheltered individuals, unsheltered population has increased 105%. And I know it's a complicated issue, but the lack of protections is not helping. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay. Well, Ms. Whiteboard, you ready to do your statement?
Yes, sir. Ms. Moon?
I think Mr. Bowles was going to say it, I'll say it.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
We would like to add the state bill, the Senate bill and the House bill to the legislative agenda if we're able to do that.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah.
You are, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you need a
Do we need
motion
a
for
motion?
that?
You just wondered if you need a...
Just
Yeah.
give a verbal vote, and that way it's part of the minutes.
Okay.
Okay, that's what it was. I just wanted it part of the minutes that the council was in agreement.
So I'd like to
Go ahead and make your motion.
make a motion to add Senate Bill 366.
Yes.
And what's the House bill number? And 721 to the city's legislative agenda.
And
All
I'll
right.
second.
All right. All those in favor, let it be known by saying of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Okay.
Thank you.
And I heard it that time.
She was going to vote against it.
Who was that?
No, I'm just teasing.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call on Council Member Whiteboard to read a closed meeting statement.
I move that the City Council for the City of Roanoke, Virginia recess to meet in closed session for the sole purpose of interviewing prospective candidates for the position of city manager. Such closed meeting will be held at an undisclosed location within 15 days after this announcement, and vote on the motion for closed meeting as permitted by subsection B of Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended.
All right,
Second.
okay. All right. We don't need a motion.
We need to call the roll.
I'll call the roll. Ms. Sanchez Jones? Mr. Fitzpatrick? Vice Mayor Cobb?
Aye.
Ms. White Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Vollison?
Aye.
Ms. Moon Reynolds?
Aye.
Mayor Lee?
Aye. So therefore, this meeting, this meeting is recessed
Recessed.
until,
Dates are unknown.
Tell the date.
such date, or what is the date? Is it till the 20th?
No, nothing certain.
Until date certain.
Until when?
Date certain.
Until dates are, it's just recessed. Until we decide to go back. It's
Just
recessed,
recess.
Mayor.
Right, we'll recess. This motion is recessed.
And you're gonna just